Welcome to the Glen Merzer Show, where we talk all things vegan. If you're not already vegan, no worries, we'll get you there. If you are, tune in for health advice, information on climate change, and all the damage done by our most destructive industry, animal agriculture. We'll also talk cooking, theater, film, and culture. My 2 reasons for starting this podcast: to entertain, to inform, and to make people vegan. Oh, that's 3. Shit. Welcome to the Glen Merzer Show. You can find us across all your favorite podcast platforms. You could find us on YouTube, and please remember to subscribe. You know, there are actually millions and millions of people who have not yet subscribed. I don't know what's wrong with these people, but there's no downside to subscribing, so please subscribe. And you could find us at realmeneatplants.com. My special guest today is, look at that. Look at that cap he's got. The Glen Merzer Show. What a coincidence.
What a coincidence.
My guest today is my friend and celebrated cap wearer, Mark Cerkvenik. He is a Food for Life instructor with PCRM. He is a very healthy chef, cooks healthy food, and he leads a Building Health Communities pod in the south suburbs of Chicago. We got a problem here. Because Mark is going to be making a recipe for us today, and there may be a little bit of tension. There may be a confrontation. Mark, I lost a lot of sleep last night because the problem is that Mark wants to do a sausage recipe. And Mark, this is a vegan themed show. You're going to offend a lot of people by making sausage, and I don't want to get angry about it, but I'm feeling my blood starting to boil. We cannot have sausage on the Glen Merzer Show.
Oh, well, we're going to change that today, Glenn. We're going to show you how to make a vegan sausage with the secret ingredient called vital wheat gluten.
So this is a vegan product.
It's a vegan, and this recipe is low fat. There's no oil in it, no animal products, and it has all the spices that you would typically find in a Polish sausage.
All right then. So we could put the recipe in the show notes.
Yeah, you can certainly put the recipe in the show notes. The recipe will have a couple of different versions. One is the version with the Polish sausage seasonings, and the other is for an andouille sausage. So the original recipe is from a gentleman by the name of Chuck Underwood. He has a website, I think it's called Brand New Vegan.
Wait a minute. Chuck Underwood? That doesn't sound Polish.
Yeah. Well, his recipe was for the andouille sausage. So
okay.
Yeah. Mine, the one that I'm making today is a Polish sausage. But I'm not Polish either. I'm Eastern European of Eastern.
Well, that's close.
Yeah, Slovenia. So I'm within a stone's throw of probably. It's kind of like when you from Slovenia, it's kind of like going to Wisconsin if you go to Poland, from Illinois. So
yeah. All right.
Yeah. So it's funny that you mentioned tension because part of making this meal, part of making this dish is building the tension in the gluten. So what the heck is vital wheat gluten anyway?
All right. Now, for those listeners who are gluten-free, this ain't the recipe for you, I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know. I don't know if there's a product that you could make that if you're gluten-free. So the funny thing is, so the here's a real just kind of incidental note. So back when there was when we had COVID, remember that nasty virus when it shut down the world, basically. Yeah, Lori, my wife and I were working in a vaccination clinic. So we're not physicians or anything, but we were doing like registration for vaccinations and this and that. And
By the way, I should warn you, whenever you say the word COVID, I have a tendency to sneeze.
you have a
So,
okay.
yeah, try not to say that word too often, but go ahead.
What say what? COVID?
Yeah, when you say the word COVID, I don't know if you noticed, but I sneezed.
Oh, I didn't notice it.
Yeah, and so whenever you say COVID, I'm
So
gonna
I
sneeze. I don't
I'm
know
gonna
why
say,
that is. It's just
uh,
a thing that happens.
okay. I won't say COVID too many times.
Oh, okay, go on.
I'm wiping my nose now. See that? But so we were working as vaccination clinics, so we're doing like the registration. So we take people's names and
Yeah.
addresses and their demographics and everything. And pretty much everybody that was born in the 70s and earlier had no allergies, and people that were born in the 80s and later had some form of allergy. They were just very kind of, incidental information, but I just found that really fascinating. We know from population data that the incidence of gluten intolerance and allergies to nuts and all that has been building over time, and that all kind of connects with this healthy lifestyle, and that the proliferation of highly processed foods in our society really creates all types of health issues, in addition to allergies and so forth. But with gluten, it's rare. It's the rare person that has celiac disease. Most people have an intolerance to gluten in terms of they feeling bloated, and they just don't feel well. And it's the type of thing where I don't recommend you eating these sausages every day, but one of the things, especially as we transition to this lifestyle of whole food, plant-based, or vegan, that we want some of those same textures and some of those same flavors that we had when we weren't. So growing up, Eastern European background, Polish sausage, Italian sausage, and we're all parts of our diet, right?
Mhm.
So when I found this recipe, I thought it's a real winner, and it's really flexible. So it starts kind of the base of the product is vital wheat gluten, and vital wheat gluten is basically they take the wheat berry, if you will, and take the endosperm out, process it, soak it, process it, and then dry it out, and then grind it, and it turns into this flour, right? And you'll see some bread recipes actually that are lower in gluten. So bread recipes that are made with whole wheat and rye, they'll call it frequently for like about a teaspoon of vital wheat gluten added to add that elasticity. That's what gives bread that elasticity, right? Gives it bread that tension and that ability to rise. So as the CO2 is released from the digestion process of the yeast eating the sugars, right? Yeast eating sugars, the off product is CO2. That's what makes the bread rise. It kind of pushes it up, and you get a nice rise. So we're going to use vital wheat gluten. I recommend Anthony's. I get nothing for Anthony. I get nothing from Anthony. I don't even know Anthony, but I use Anthony's vital wheat gluten, and we can get this at your favorite online retailer. It's non-GMO, it's organic, and you get in a big bag like this, and it's pretty reasonable. I think a big bag like this is probably about $12 or something like this, and this is 4 pounds, and this will last you many, many, many recipes. All right, you ever use vital wheat gluten, Glenn?
No, I've eaten foods with vital wheat gluten, but I've never cooked with it.
Yeah. So probably any type of seitan, is typically
Right,
that's vital wheat gluten, right? So,
right.
we're actually going to a vegan restaurant in Rockville, Illinois. It's called Pig Emporium, or Pig something. Remember the name of that restaurant? My wife's gonna look it up. Anyways, but a lot of recipes, a lot of dishes that are made with this vital wheat gluten. But anyway, so we're gonna start with beans.
Okay.
First of all, what we have is a cup and a half of white beans. These are cannelli beans, and I've got just a little bit of the cooking juice in there, and we want to mash those up. So this recipe is really about not only the textures, but also what it looks like upon being, cooked and when you cut into the sausage. So the thing that we want to do here is smash these beans up, and we can leave some of these beans whole because what'll happen then when the beans are in the sausage itself, we'll see that there'll be like little specks of beans in there, and it almost kind of looks like the fat that was in, like in that traditional sausage.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. So
we
it gives
don't have to we don't have to recapitulate the fat from the poor little pigs.
Yeah, but it's the look of it that we're trying to mimic here, and the texture. So it's going to give that really kind of chewy texture. So we want to get it to kind of like a mash like that, and
Okay.
um, and then kind of put that aside. So the next thing we do is I think any good Polish sausage is going to have a lot of garlic in it, right? I mean, you're going to want to really taste that garlic. So this recipe calls for 12 cloves of garlic, and so I've got some peeled here. I want to show you one of my little chef's tricks. So used to be a professional chef too. We used to do tours throughout the United States for folks, and you kind of get really good at doing this after being a professional and having to process, typical week tour for folks when we'd make all these meals. We'd have about 88 different recipes for a week, right? Somewhere between 65 and like 90 recipes during a week. So you had to get pretty good. Most of the times I would get these garlics peeled already, but for those of you that have fresh garlic in your house, I'm going to show you a really easy way to peel this. In fact, I had a student tell me it was worth her $25 coming to one of my classes just to learn how to peel a garlic, because she'd spend an hour sitting in front of the TV watching her favorite show and peeling a head of garlic. But really easy, real easy. All you got to do is here's a clove of garlic, and you got that little root end there,
Yeah.
right? So you just cut that end off like that,
Right.
and just take your knife, hold your knife on top of the garlic clove, and smash it down, and watch the way it just jumps out.
Whoa.
How about that? Isn't it like just like magic?
Do you have a patent on that technique, Mark?
Well, full disclosure here, I learned this from one of my favorite chef celebrities, Jacques Pepin, who's on PBS. So
Oh,
yeah, I've
I hope he's a vegan.
he's not. He is not
Oh
a vegan
man.
by no means is he a vegan. Yeah, he's kind of a classic French chef. But I
Well,
was
then the heck with him.
yeah. I was one of those dorky young guys, young kids back when I was in my 20s. Started watching all these cooking shows. Him and I'm gonna start dating myself now. Julia Childs, right? I
Yeah.
would watch Julia Childs, and let's see who else. The Galloping Gourmet. Remember the Galloping Gourmet? He'd always
Remember those words.
remember those words. And Frugal Gourmet. Um, yeah,
None of these people were vegan, right?
none of them were. There was no such
Ah,
thing.
the heck with all of them.
I mean, back then, Glenn, you remember, like in the 80s and stuff, it was like you start hearing about the veganism, and well, you had to do this mix of making sure you had the right amino acids, and you had to have the right mix of foods, and all we know now that as long as you eat a colorful diet of plants, you're gonna do fine. So again, to pop that guy out of the little husk there, cut the end off, and away you go. So one of the things I tell my students too is that the thing with being a vegan and being specifically primarily whole food plant-based is that you've got to cook. There's just no way. There's no way you're going to be able to eat like this and not cook, especially
Right.
if you're trying to do no oil or low oil and little to no salt as well. So you got to cook. So you want to learn some of these tricks here. One of the other things I tell my students is that you want to get some other tools. This is a bench scraper, and I'm going to show you how this can save you a lot of time. It helps scrape the foods up off your bench, off your work area, and also has a little ruler here too, 1 to 6 inches in the case that you're wanting to cut something with a specific size. So So again, you could do this technique with cutting garlic with any size garlic. Kind of the bigger, the easier. But you can do it kind of with one of these small little guys too. Again, you're just going to cut that root end off, smash it down, and it jumps right out of the husk. So there's no reason not to work with fresh garlic. And the other thing that you'll always want to do is work with fresh ingredients as well, right? Work with very fresh ingredients. Glenn, what's your favorite fresh vegetable to cook and to eat? Do you have any?
I would say it might be asparagus.
Asparagus, I love asparagus. Yeah. Good time of the year here in the Midwest for asparagus is what, like May, right? Although we did go to this Italian restaurant on Saturday with some friends, and they did have some nice asparagus they put on our pasta for us. So what you want to do with these 12 heads of garlic, 12 cloves of garlic, not heads. God forbid you use 12 heads of garlic, 12 cloves of garlic, is to chop them up really, really fine. Because you don't want big chunks in your sausage, right? All right. So then what we're going to do, and I'm going to show you how you use this wonderful bench scraper. You take your bench scraper and line up all your garlic. And it's probably a good half cup of garlic there, and that's going to go into my beans. All right. All right, you with me?
I'm with you.
All right. All right. So next, what we're going to do is I'm looking at my recipes here. We're going to add 3 cups of vegetable broth. So now this vegetable broth I've made with some homemade vegetable powder. And I can give you that recipe too if people want to make their own vegetable powder. You can include that in the show notes. But we're going to put those three cups of vegetable broth in there. You could make your own vegetable broth, or you could use those little bouillon cubes. The only problem with bouillon cubes is that there's a high amount of salt in those, so it's going to be a little bit harder to control the salt.
There are also boxes of vegetable broth available in grocery stores.
Yep, that's a really good one, and I think there's one called just bouillon or something like that. That's a good one. Again, lots of salt, and so if you use something with salt, like one of those bouillon products with salt, you're going to want to cut back on the salt in your recipe. So the next is this recipe calls for 6 tablespoons of soy sauce. Again, I've left the recipe as such. I'm going to cut back a little bit on the soy sauce because I'm going to put some salt. So Glenn, do you know the flavor profile what soy adds when you add it to a dish like this? What's the flavor profile that you get in addition to salt? What would be?
Oh, you've stumped me. You're going to make me look stupid on my own show. Okay, the flavor profile. Let me just take a wild guess. It tastes like cranberries.
Tastes like cranberries.
Wrong.
Nah. Here's a big college word for you.
Yeah.
Umami.
Okay.
Umami. So it's going to add that umami flavor, that kind of meatiness, that savory, meaty.
Don't say meatiness on this show.
I'm sorry. What can I say instead of meaty?
We don't use the word meaty here.
We don't use meaty. We don't use.
And when you say COVID, I sneeze.
I won't say the C word. Yeah. All right. So I just went ahead and put like 3 tablespoons of soy sauce to put the umami, not going to say the M word, on Glenn's show. All right. So the next is fennel. So we're going to throw 2 tablespoons of fennel powder in there, or the recipe says fennel seeds. Fennel powder is fine. I've got this all pre-measured. It makes it a lot easier for me as I'm demoing here. So, and then we're going to put some dried basil and dried oregano, kind of the classic dried herb flavor here. This is, as you'll notice, you'll probably wonder, boy, it sounds, why are you putting oregano and basil in a Polish sausage recipe? Again, it's the herbalness, it's that herby. If we were to leave out some of the smoked ingredients that I'll talk about in a minute or so here, we'd be moving more towards that kind of the Italian sausage. That's how flexible this recipe is. So our basil is going to go in there, our oregano, nutmeg. We've got a half a teaspoon of nutmeg.
There's nutmeg in sausage?
Sausage, isn't that amazing? Yeah. Yeah, I actually looked up recipes for classic Polish sausage, and yeah, nutmeg was a common ingredient in Polish sausage. Yeah. And red pepper flakes. So, Glenn, do you like hot foods, medium, or are
Pretty
you
mild. I'm a little bit on the wimpy side.
you're a little bit on the wimpy side? Okay. So this is something, folks, that you could certainly leave off altogether, but I'm going to put about a teaspoon of red pepper flakes. Like if I was making these just for my wife and I, I'd probably go more towards a tablespoon because we like a little bit spicier, especially
How do they make these red pepper flakes?
How do they make them? So
Yeah.
there's going to be a certain type of pepper. So maybe an ancho pepper or guajillo pepper.
Somehow, what, dehydrate them?
And they dehydrate that. They'll chop them up or take the seeds, chop them, and chop up parts of them and then dehydrate them. And then you get your red peppers, right? So it's kind of a generic name. There could be a lot of different peppers in red pepper flakes, right? What else is in this? Let's see, caraway seeds. All right, so we get that nice caraway smell. I just love the smell of caraway seeds. I wish we had like the ability to smell this, smell some of these spices, but I'm gonna put some caraway seeds.
I would have to upgrade the Zoom plan.
Yeah, you ought to. Maybe next year, right, for 2025. We'll put a little bit of salt in there. It's a tablespoon of salt. That's why I cut back on the soy sauce a little bit because I am putting salt in there. A little bit different little bit different flavor profile. We are making between 10 and 12 sausages out of this, and they're pretty good size sausages. So this salt's going to get spread out. If you are salt free, you can leave the salt out altogether, which would be absolutely fine. We're going to put a tablespoon of black pepper in here. And then some liquid smoke. So liquid smoke adds that smokiness of the Polish sausage smokiness, if you will, to it.
Now, how do they make this liquid smoke stuff?
So they make the liquid smoke by basically taking like mesquite or oak or some hardwood and burning it, catching the smoke. And then when the moisture in the vessel, if you will, wherever they're smoking, burning the wood, injecting some steam in there, and then when it all condenses, the combination of the water and the smoke condenses, and they pull that off, and they get liquid smoke. So.
All right. I like the taste of liquid smoke, but I hope they don't start any forest fires doing it.
Yeah, right. Right. Well, and some people don't like that taste. So, if you like the taste, you want this a little smokier. The recipe calls for a 1.5 teaspoons. You could add a little bit more. If you don't like it, you could.
Do we know anything about the health consequences of liquid smoke?
Yeah, I've gotten that. I've had that asked quite a bit, and
oh, sure. My questions aren't original.
They are not original. No. I've yet to hear an original question from you, Glenn. So. No, I've been asked that before, and you're not pulling off any of the carcinogens, from the smoke at all. So you're not inhaling the smoke into your lungs. You're just getting the flavor, and it's all processed and flavored, and purified and everything. So all you're getting is that smoky flavor.
Now, can I ask you, Mark, what is your shoe size?
What does that have to do with?
Well, because you said I never ask original questions.
That wasn't a very original question.
I don't think you've ever been asked that before.
I have not been asked that. Well, I'll take that back. When I go buy shoes, I do.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, yeah. So that was just red pepper. I'm sorry, smoked paprika. So again, adding that smoky profile.
Don't lie to us now.
No, I will not. I will never lie.
All
I'll
right.
do a lot of things, but I'll never lie.
All right.
Oh, by the way, my shoe size is 11.5 for dress shoes and 12 for gym shoes. So.
Whoa, those are big feet you have there.
Hey, did you know that your feet actually get bigger as you get older?
I think I have heard that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think I started out, my feet were like size 10 when I was like in high school. Yeah.
Really? And you're up to 11 and a half, 12?
Yeah, 11.5 to 12, depending.
You must be ancient.
Yeah. I can't wait till I'm like 80. I'll like have like size like 27 shoes like Shaquille O'Neal does, you know. And gravity is a bugger, isn't it?
Yeah. Now what's that you're drinking?
Oh, this is water.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I got thirsty. That's an original question. I've never gotten asked that question either.
Okay, good. So that's
You got
two.
two. You got two. Let's see how many original questions you could. Okay, so we're gonna put that in there, and now we're gonna add nutritional yeast.
Okay.
Okay. Here's a give me a question.
I have an opinion about nutritional yeast.
I'm sure you do.
I think it has an unfair name. It's
Say
called
more.
nutritional.
Right.
You shouldn't be able to put that in the name of your product.
Well,
It'd be like saying, let's have some health-giving bananas. You know, it's, or let's have some miraculous goji berries. It's putting the adjective in the name.
in the name itself.
Nutritional yeast. It's saying, hey, we're nutritional. I don't think they should be allowed to do that. With all respects to the yeast.
Did you see what I just did?
What'd you just do? Did you screw up the recipe?
No, I just lost my my
Oh.
fork.
Oh, you don't want to bite into a Polish vegan sausage and
With a
bite
fork
into
in
a
it.
fork.
No. It's like sounds like there's a bad joke in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna wipe my fork off. So
Okay.
even professional chefs make those mistakes. See that? So yeah, well, you know, so here's a question, and it's an answer you already gave me to another question.
Yeah.
What flavor profile does nutritional yeast add to a dish like this?
Okay. Well,
You already gave
this one must be cranberry.
Oh,
No?
umami.
Oh, umami again. Oh, it was a
Umami
trick
again.
question.
I know. I'm sorry.
Twice.
Twice.
Yes.
Twice.
Umami.
All right. So you know there'll be another question here.
Yeah, I know it's coming up.
It's coming up. All right. So I added nutritional yeast. By the way, while you were pontificating about nutritional yeast, I also added some coriander, which I had forgotten. But that's again all on the list.
Pontificating is a little bit of a charged term for what I was doing.
Soapboxing.
No, that's also a charged term.
Sharing your infinite knowledge and opinions.
Yeah, that's more like.
Okay, that's better. Okay.
All right, if you've ever wanted to show off your plant-based lifestyle and do it in style, here's your chance. We have some of the most amazing t-shirts, hats, accessories, coffee mugs, and more at shop.realmeneatplants.com. We have statement t-shirts that will bring a smile to everyone's face. I love the I want tofu tonight tee. Plus, we have podcast tees, Real Women Eat Plants gear, Real Kids Eat Plants, and Real People Eat Plants, just in case men, women, and kids didn't cover it all. Yeah, we love you and love that you want to show off that healthy lifestyle of yours. Again, check out our high-quality gear at shop.realmeneatplants.com and enjoy.
All right, so we're stirring this with a fork, huh?
We're stirring this with a fork, and there's a reason. So I don't want it to clump, right?
Is it because you don't have a spoon?
Well, it's actually easier with a fork because you're going to want to aerate this. You're going to see what's going to happen here in a second. You want to aerate and mix the vital wheat gluten in. Now here's
all the spoons are in the dishwasher, aren't they?
Well, that too.
Yeah.
And it's just easier because my whisk gets all globbed up here. So remember, one of the things that I talked about early on was that we want to cook. We're going to have to cook if we're going to be vegans, right? Especially low fat, low salt eating, right? So I'm looking for ways to save myself time, to make things more convenient for me. One of the most, here's a big college word for you, enervating things, enervating.
Yeah.
Right. What does enervating mean?
Is this another question?
It is. It is. I like asking you questions.
Enervating would be depleting energy, right?
Depleting energy. Yeah. Frustrating, right?
Yeah.
Things about working with vital wheat gluten is it's really sticky and it's messy and it's gluey. It's almost like vital wheat gluten.
Come to think of it, that's another product that with an adjective, vital wheat gluten. It calls itself vital.
It should be
the yeast calls itself nutritional, and the gluten calls itself vital.
Vital. Yeah.
Why are these foods giving themselves adjectives?
Well, I think so. So you want the technical reasons?
Yeah.
Okay. So nutritional. It's called nutritional yeast because there's brewer's yeast, there's baker's yeast, right? So brewer's yeast, if you brew beer, right, there's certain strains of yeast that you'd only brew beer with. You wouldn't want to use a baker's yeast in a brewer in a beer recipe. Likewise, if you're making bread, you're gonna or a cake that needs a rising agent like a yeast, you're gonna use baker's yeast.
Right.
Nutritional yeast has no rising agent properties, right? There's no live yeast in nutritional yeast. It's just all about nutrition, right? It's all about
they should just call it eating yeast.
Eating yeast. Yeah, but then it kind of sounds gross.
Well, I mean, they're giving themselves a very favorable adjective.
They are. And
nutritional.
Right?
And then you got the gluten calling itself vital.
Vital. So vital. So why is it called vital? Because only the gluten is extracted from the flour. So there's no.
Well, what are you, a PR agent for these foods?
Oh,
you're a shill, aren't you?
I am.
You're a shill for the gluten and the yeast industry.
I am.
You're just excusing
their.
You're excusing their con man names.
Hey, don't get me started on the food industry, man.
Yeah.
We won't talk about some of the food industry's shell games they play with people and why we're so sick, fat, and unhealthy as a country here.
It's like if you said, would you like some vital wheat gluten or some indispensable tofu? I don't think you should have an adjective in your name.
But you do use soft tofu.
Soft is a descriptive.
Silken tofu.
There's soft, there's firm.
Yeah.
But there's no name like indispensable tofu. But there's nutritional yeast and vital wheat gluten.
Vital wheat gluten. Is there another one like this that's interesting?
I don't know.
We'll have to think about that. So, all right. So now we're going to add the wheat gluten. Okay, I'll leave the
wheat gluten.
So far, I can't say the C word, I can't say the M word, and I can't say the V word.
Right.
Or the N word, the nutritional word, right?
Right.
Can't say any of those. So here's the part that if you just dump this all in and start mixing this up, it's going to be really enervating.
Oh, okay. Here we go again with the college.
Enervating. So what you want to do is here's another big college word, titrate.
You're going to titrate it?
And titrate it in. It's kind of a bit of a overuse of that word, but I'm gonna add a little bit at a time, right?
Okay.
And just keep mixing it. See what I'm doing? I'm just kind of mixing it in, and until it all kind of gets in there, and then you're gonna have this kind of big mess of glob of
And you got to stir all
oh,
that with a fork, right?
you want to stir it with a fork. Why do you want
God,
to
I'm
stir it with a
gonna.
fork?
When's your birthday? I'm gonna send you a spoon.
No, see how nice this cleans up? To watch this. If I
Okay.
see the way that's all on there, right? All I do is this, and it's all clean. So it's just easier to mix and to stir. You want a big fork. Don't use one of those little puny forks that you eat with. I'm going to show you all the spoons I have. Just to,
All right. Let me test you. Do you know what you call a fork with 3 prongs?
um, work with three. No,
It's called a runcible spoon.
a runcible.
I think I'm getting that right.
What the heck does runcible mean? It means
I don't know,
three.
but at least it isn't so self-promoting as vital and nutritional.
True. It's true. All right. So what I'm doing now is just mixing this all up. I got to make a little room here because this is the fun part. This is the fun part of the recipe. Just gonna get myself a little room here. And clean this off a second. Let me move my cutting board over there. You want a nice big workspace for this.
Yeah.
And you just keep mixing this up and you're gonna see some kind of bits stuck to the sides, and that's okay. And now what we're gonna do is turn this out onto our worktop.
Okay.
So here's another part that I've learned over the course of time to make this less of a frustrating process. And that is the way you clean your bowl up. Because if you can see this, it's like really kind of gluey and sticks to the sides, right? So what you want to do is scrape your bowl out, because if you get a dishcloth in there, it really pisses my wife off.
Okay.
Because it gets all dirty, right? And then
Okay.
all these little bits get stuck in the dish rag and everything.
Right.
You ruined another dish. Anyways,
Right. So how many years have you been married, Mark?
38.
38 years. That's back
38.
when your feet were around a size 10.
10 and a half now.
Okay.
Yeah. So what you want to do is scrape the bowl out and try not to use a dish rag to wipe this out. So my next thing that I would do with this is just run some hot water and soap in here and just wash this out with your hand. And eventually what'll happen is the soap and the hot water will melt the blood pedal gluten away.
Right.
So
Now, this raises the question, has your wife minded watching your feet enlarge over the course of your marriage?
She's laughed about it.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, and there used to be a time when I'd have to buy a new pair of dress shoes, once a year, and I don't have to do that anymore because I don't have to dress up and look professional. I don't have to wear suits anymore, so
Okay.
it's gym shoes now. But yeah, she was laughing about it until her feet started growing too.
Oh, I see. So she has the same issue.
She has the same issue, right?
Yeah.
Well, how big have your feet gotten? What's your shoe size? I don't think I ever asked the hostess, by the way, either.
Yeah, I'm staying very young. I'm still a 9.5.
They didn't get any bigger?
Not to my knowledge.
All right. Well, you're lucky.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I want to do now is just is work this a little bit, and you're going to see some of the beans fly off, and that's okay.
For those who are listening to the podcast and not watching it, let me say that Chef Mark Cerkvenik right now is kind of molding a big, it looks almost like a bread dough.
Yep.
On his countertop.
Yep.
And he's doing so in size 11.5 shoes.
Or 12 if they're gym shoes.
Well, are they gym shoes?
No, you know what? So this is one of the magics of doing things on Zoom.
Yeah.
I got shorts on.
Yeah.
Shorts on and Doc Martens.
Okay, so for those listening rather than watching, Mark has just revealed that he's wearing shorts, which is not terribly professional.
It's
and Doc Martens. And, you know, next time you're just going to have to watch on YouTube to get those exciting moments.
I had a friend of mine that's a therapist. He's a
Yeah.
individual marriage and family therapist.
Yeah.
And one of the first times he had a client, he saw the client in person. He kind of joked with the client. I guess he had a relationship, obviously, with this client for a period of time, and saw them in person. He said, "Oh yeah, now that I'm seeing you in person, I guess I got to put pants on every time we talk." So,
Well, I got scared when you said one of the magics of doing a Zoom. I was hoping you
you
would.
were afraid I wasn't
shorts.
going to have pants on. Huh?
I was hoping there would at least be shorts involved.
No, I always wear pants. It's just yeah, you got to look professional, kind of from the waist up, like
Okay.
you know, and put the Glen Merzer podcast show hat on.
Yeah.
So. That's what I think. That's what I got. Well, yeah, that's what I got when I did the show last time with you. I got this lousy. I mean, this hat. Yeah, it was very nice. Thank you. And I've gotten asked, you know, what's that? What's Glen Merzer? I said, who? I forgot I got the hat on.
Have many people asked that question?
No,
I
that was
didn't
a
think
lie.
so.
That was a lie. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Most people don't even look at your hat.
that's true.
Anyways, okay. So now I've got this kind of mass of dough and what you see in here, I don't know if you could see it on the camera, but you know, it's kind of like beans in there and the garlic and it smells. It's got that umami smell, that M word smell, you know.
No smell of cranberries, I guess.
Does not smell like cranberries.
All
I guess
right.
the next time I come on your show, I'm gonna need to do something with cranberries.
Please.
All right. So now what you do is you're gonna make this in. I sometimes get 10, sometimes get 12 sausages out of this. And so let's see how many we can make this time. So I'm going to cut this big loaf. So I've got this loaf, if you will. It's let's see, six in 4 is 10 inches long by about 6 inches wide, and about 2 inches high, roughly 2 to 3 inches high. So now I'm going to cut this in half. All right, and then cut the half in half, each half in half, and then cut each of these halves in the thirds, which should technically give me 12, right? So, but it kind of depends on how even I am, and I don't mind different size sausages because sometimes these things freeze really nicely.
You're good at this. This brings back the time when you did 3-card Monte professionally.
That's right. That's right. I did. It was one of my many careers. See, this one's a little small, so I'm probably going to combine that with another one. But so I'm just going to cut these into about 10 to 12 pieces. And what happens now is we're going to roll these up into some tin foil.
Okay.
I've had students ask me, well, isn't tin foil, doesn't it cause Alzheimer's? And actually, Dr. Michael Greger has a really good blog about that, a video blog about that. One of the things that the research has shown that is if you store acidic dishes in aluminum pans, then that aluminum gets shunted off into the could get shunted off into the dish, and you know, you could ingest it. And really, the biggest source of aluminum toxicity can come from antacids. Right? So, Michael Greger talks all about this, and you know, one of the things after being on this vegan diet now, see, my wife and I have been whole food plant-based. It was just 6 years in February of 18. I haven't taken an antacid in over 6 years now. You know, I used to take them all the time, you know. So another reason to go vegan is it reduces your need to take antacids. So then what we do is I've got some aluminum foil here, and
so your point was that since this isn't acidic, the aluminum won't hurt you. Is that your point?
Aluminum it would not hurt you, according to
But it might if this was an acidic dish.
Right, right. So,
Okay.
and if you're really concerned about it, you could wrap this initially in parchment paper,
Mm-hmm.
and then wrap it in this tinfoil. But you really want to wrap it in tinfoil because what happens is wheat gluten, this will expand under heat because we're going to steam these now. In a kind of a traditional steamer for 45 minutes, or we're going to steam them in a Instapot or a pressure cooker for 15 minutes. I prefer doing these in a pressure cooker because it's 15 minutes. It's very quick. I put it on, I forget it. I don't have to worry about the water boiling out or anything like that. So what I'm doing now is, as you can see, just kind of taking them and making them into sausages. Probably about, let's see, about a 6-inch sausage, and then rolling it pretty tight, with my aluminum foil, twisting the ends, and then bending the twisted ends under. So this goes pretty quick. So if you have kids, it's kind of a fun, or grandchildren, that'd be kind of a fun way to spend a Sunday afternoon. I actually made a batch because we're going to try one here yesterday. So in between the Bears game, while I was watching the Bears game, their first win in I don't know how many, and their first win by a rookie since 2001. So I was pretty happy for the Bears. I think the Colts there in Indiana, they lost, didn't they?
I have no idea.
You don't follow football.
I haven't watched football since Joe Namath stopped playing.
Oh, gee. You're not missing anything, really.
You know the problem with football, Mark?
What's the problem, man?
The problem with football is you could have the most exciting play of all time. There could be 30 seconds left in the game, and the team with the ball is down by 5, and the quarterback drops back and he's almost tackled, and he scrambles, and he laterals the ball to his halfback, who then throws the ball down the field 60 yards, and the receiver is double covered by defenders, but he somehow leaps up and catches the ball with one hand and falls into the end zone, and it's the most dramatic ending of a football game ever. And then you hear, oh, flag on the play, holding. And then who the hell cares if some guy was holding somebody? They hold each other on every damn play anyway. That's right. What I hate about football, those damn flags. It's just ridiculous. Those guys who are linemen, they hold each other every damn play. So why do they choose during the most exciting play of all time to throw that damn flag and say holding? That's why I don't like football.
Ratings. It gets people to come back because of the excitement.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
5 yards, 15 yards, holding.
Right?
When they figure out how to do that, I'll start watching again. And then I got a problem with basketball.
What's your problem with basketball?
The basket is too low. These guys are taller than the basket.
Everybody can dunk now.
They're shooting downwards.
Right?
Yeah, they jump up 6 inches and dunk the ball.
It's
crazy. Ridiculous. Raise the basket to 12 feet. You got a good sport.
Have you ever it's pretty amazing though when you think about how tall these guys are, and you look at some of these players like for example John Paxson. So I grew up in the 90s. I was watched all 6 Bulls championships, and John Paxson, he was a shooting guard. He was a great outside 3-point shooter, and he always looked like really short, right? He's 6'3". He's like 2 inches taller than me, and he so you get to some of these guys, and I can remember there's back in the day, this was before things changed in our society now, when you used to be able to get really close to some of the players. And there was a guy, Will Perdue, he was a center for the Bulls, and he was 7'1". His belly button came up to like my nose. And I'm, like I said, I'm a little bit over 6 foot. It's just like unbelievable. And then when you stand there and you see what these guys do in terms of launching from the top of the key, they're in the air from pretty much the top of the key all the way to the basket. That is pretty amazing. But they can all do it now.
Who's the shortest player in the NBA now?
I don't know who it is now.
I stumped you.
Yeah, you did. Yeah,
I remember when I was a kid. I can't remember his name, but
Spud
there was
Webb. Remember
what?
Spud Webb was a guy with, I think he played with Seattle or something like that. He was like 5'6", and he was dunking.
I remember a guy who was 5'6", but that wasn't his name. But yeah, if you get into the NBA at 5'6", they should just automatically, make you MVP.
Right?
Is that's just such a remarkable accomplishment.
I know. You ever play basketball?
Well, on the street.
Yeah, I was never very good at basketball. I didn't enjoy that. I was a bowler and a golfer.
I've heard about your bowling.
You heard about my bowling? Yeah. I was actually pretty good when I was younger, but I haven't touched the ball in years.
I once bowled a game where the first frame I got 9 pins. And every other frame after that was either a strike or a spare. So I only missed 1 pin in the whole game.
Wow.
And then I retired.
And then you retired. Well, that's a good way. You start up on the up note, right?
That's it. I'm not going to top that game. I only missed 1 pin.
Good. All right. So what do these guys look like when they're done? So this was one.
That's what it looks like. For those who are listening and not watching, it looks kind of like a sausage.
How about that?
And but it's not, bad like a sausage.
No.
This is a vegan product.
Yeah. So a couple things about this. First of all, we're going to steam these again, 45 minutes in a conventional steamer, or 15 minutes in an Instapot or a pressure cooker. You're going to let these cool, and then you want to put these in the refrigerator overnight. You could eat them the same day, but the texture just doesn't firm up and doesn't get, and the flavors don't meld. I had one yesterday just to make sure it's tasting okay, and they're okay, but they're just not firm. So when they sit in the refrigerator overnight, they get a really nice firm texture, and a little chewy, and then all the flavors kind of meld, and a nice garlic, and it tastes like Polish sausage, garlic and the herbs, and get some nice spicy hot mustard with this, and you're good to go. And one of the other things you'll see too is kind of the texture. I'll kind of pull this apart a little bit.
Yeah.
It kind of rips like
a piece of bread.
Like a piece of meat.
Fresh baked bread.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, really good. You could eat this room temperature, or you could warm it up. I wouldn't put this, like there's one of the recipes I've included is for andouille sausage, kind of in a traditional vegan gumbo. If you use this in a hot dish, you're going to make these, of course, ahead of time. I wouldn't put them in and boil them with the rest of the ingredients, because it's going to fall apart. So what you do is you'd make your gumbo or what have you, and then maybe the last couple of minutes just to warm them through, or cut them into slices, and then put them in the dish.
All right. Well, we'll put the recipe in the show notes. And thank you so much, Mark, for demonstrating how to make a healthy sausage.
A healthy sausage, Polish, Italian. Look up your favorite Italian recipe. You can find those Italian spices. Play with the spices. You want a little bit more garlic, a little bit more heat, less salt, more salt. That's the whole thing about cooking, is it's experimenting and making those things according to your own personal palate.
There you go.
All right.
Do you have a website that people can find you at?
Yeah, I
Mark?
do. It's let'seatgreat.com. So
Let'seatgreat.com. Go to there. Check out what Mark Cerkvenik has to offer. Will you come back on the show soon?
I would love to,
Maybe
Glenn.
when your shoe size is about a half size bigger?
But yeah,
Something
so
like
probably
that?
be about another year or so.
Oh,
I'll
all right.
be up to a 12 and a half.
Okay.
And yeah.
I hope we still recognize you.
Yeah, you probably will. Yeah. And I still won't have hair. I'll probably, still be bald.
Keep
So.
that cap on, Mark.
That's right. Keep it. There's a little bit too much glare there without the cap.
Yeah,
Nice,
it's
nice cap.
blinding, Mark. Keep the cap on.
Nice cap. Thanks,
All
Glenn.
right. Well, thanks very much, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. This has been the Glen Merzer Show, where everyone listening turns vegan, regains their health, and annoys their friends and relatives. Find us on YouTube at the Glen Merzer Show and across all your major podcast platforms. Don't forget to subscribe.